We are going live.
Do you know what time it is?
Podcast time.
Here we go. It's Sunday night. Mark, how we doing, buddy?
Wonderful. How are you?
I am doing well so far, although I think we lost 3 viewers during the course of our introduction. So, that's wonderful.
You made the introduction, not me, so that's your fault.
Yeah, I guess people hate it or they're sick of seeing it, one or the other.
Yeah.
So what's going on? It's Sunday here. We're still living in the United States of America.
Yep. Nothing's changed.
Nothing has changed.
Other than some people who didn't care about the deficit 4 days ago do.
Yes, there does seem to be a political shift in this country that is taking place, and that is we see it every time there is an administration change between Republicans and Democrats. It is what it is.
It seems like we're going back to the little center, though, so that's good. So I'll take that.
Hey, listen, I am perfectly okay
take
with
anything.
mundane and normal. Is
boring.
Perfectly fine with me.
Yep, all good. How was your week, though? I mean, other than that,
week. I had a good week. So I actually got myself something that I am very excited about. So for Christmas, you can see here on camera, Jessica bought me. These are stoneware teacups, and they got a cool little like wood handle, and they're very stylish.
That's cool.
And they have a built-in steeper. It's like a cup that you put inside of it. I didn't bring it with me, but it just drops in there, and it's a steeper. And we didn't have any tea. I got it for Christmas and didn't have any tea. So we finally found a tea shop, bought a bunch of different teas, and got ready to make the teas. And I realized, oh my God, I don't have a tea kettle. I don't even have a tea kettle.
Oh,
and
no.
everything in my house is electric and controllable. So I went and bought a smart tea kettle, and now I have. It's beautiful too. It's got
nice.
cork handle and top. And,
of course, it does.
It's pretty. So I've been drinking herbal teas. We got one that I forgot what it's called, oolong or something like that, but it's tastes like campfire.
Cool. And I wouldn't like that.
No, it was awesome. It's so good. This one I'm drinking right now is it's a peach and passion fruit, I think, tea. So
I don't think people like your tea.
I don't care. I like my tea.
I don't either. Yeah,
I
like your tea.
So WandaVision. Let's take a minute real quick to talk about WandaVision.
Yep.
That'll lead very nicely into what our topic of discussion is tonight. What did you think of this week's episode 3?
So
spoiler warning, real quick. Spoiler warning, if you have not seen WandaVision, any of the episodes, but especially episode 3, we're going to talk about it here for a quick minute.
Yeah, I mean, I figured you were going to ask me how my week was, but whatever.
Jesus, Mark, I asked you how your day was, man. Why do you always got to make this difficult? We're not married.
It's fine.
We're not married.
It feels like it sometimes. What a burden.
Tell me, what did you think?
If anybody decided to stop watching it after the first 2 episodes, you need to come back now because now the show's starting. Simple as that. Now you're getting into the lore. You're getting into everything that this show is meant to be is happening now. So come on back, join us. You'll love it.
Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of people were complaining quite a bit after the first 2 episodes debuted that they didn't understand it. It didn't make any sense. But certainly in episode 3, you started to see the first real indications of what is actually going on. A little bit more of Wanda losing control, a lot of that kind of stuff, that we hadn't seen until this point. So it was good to see finally.
Yeah, very cool. I'm really excited going forward. I mean, I've been excited since the beginning, just like you, and I kept telling people, it goes back, trust the process. These guys have not been wrong yet. So just trust in them. They'll do it right.
Yep.
You're gonna love it.
I couldn't agree more. And that is the Marvel Universe. So for those that don't know, that maybe aren't hugely into Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been a series of 23 movies. that have been released over almost 12 years now, although with the pandemic, almost 13 years. And it all started with Iron Man, the original Iron Man, back in 2008. And now recently, the last movie of the whole series was Spider-Man Homecoming. Or Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home, right? Was that the first or the last one?
That was the last one.
Yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home. And
did they ever say if that was phase 3 or 4? Was that the last of phase 3 or was that the first of phase 4?
They, it's always been a question with these movies, right? I think that was supposed to be the end of
I thought so too.
phase 3,
like Ant-Man was the transition, and I don't know. I guess WandaVision's the beginning of phase 4.
Well, I guess it was keep in mind it was supposed to be Black Widow. So I think Black Widow Black Widow was supposed to be the end.
Oh, your audio's going nuts.
You got to stop doing this every week, Mark. You're getting my audio from a different place.
Okay.
You hear my audio differently than the software does, unless something else is really wonky. Is somebody else saying my software's off or my audio's off? No, it's just you picking me up because you're going through Zoom, but they're getting it through the broadcast. So don't worry about my audio, Mark.
You sound beautiful.
Excellent. Okay, good. So anyway, Black Widow was supposed to be, I think, like the official transition from phase 3 into phase 4 because it was going to be the last closing storyline from the Endgame process and then introducing new characters. What is so damn funny? What is funny, Mike?
I'm reading that it's always me.
It is always
it's my fault.
You are always the one throwing us off into La La Land. So anyway,
it's my job.
WandaVision, if you've been watching the Marvel movies and you have not found WandaVision yet, you need to correct that because one, it is actual canon to the overarching storyline that Marvel has been putting out through their cinematic universe. That cinematic universe does not just encapsulate the movies anymore. It's going deeper into the television shows on Disney Plus as well. So what Mark and I are doing tonight, Mark, it was your idea. Why don't you go ahead and introduce what we're doing tonight?
So we're going to give you a nice introduction to our favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe films. We're going to do a top 10. We're going to count from 10 down to 1. And at the end here, we're going to give us our 2 least favorite films. Now, we've done this format before once. I think it worked well. I think people enjoyed it, and let's see how this one goes.
Yeah, and we were certainly, well, Mark was prepared last time. I was not prepared properly last time. I kind of winged it.
And he said it was always me.
What is the past tense of winged it? Is it winged it?
You wanged it.
I wanged it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So
that works.
tonight we are actually ready to go. So Mark, why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you kick it off and introduce us to your number 10?
All right. So, before this, or I don't remember if we were even on air yet, you're like, Dad, you're not my wife or not my husband or whatever you just said. There's a movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that is the introduction to Chris for me, and that's Doctor Strange. I had to put it in my list just because that was like our wow. I'm reading these comments and I'm getting distracted. But
stop reading the comments.
It was an amazing film. It twisted your mind. It was different than anything else they'd ever done before, and quite frankly, since we're going to get in the multiverse and in short time. Is that one in the can yet, or is that ready to go, or are they still filming?
They have just started filming, as far as I know.
I'm very excited to see that. This was just a great movie. It was kind of a mind twister, and I really liked it. But the real reason it is on my list was Chris and I saw this on a rocking cruise ship with 3D glasses on. That's right. I don't know how the hell he didn't get seasick.
I had already gotten seasick. I think that was why.
I was dying, and it was But you know what? It was awesome. Then I cyber stalked him onto this podcast, I guess. So the rest is history. So
anyway, was that our first? That wasn't our first cruise ship, right?
That was our first cruise. That was the one. Cruise, that was the one where we walked in to dinner late the first night, and y'all were sitting across, and they put that stupid ass hat on me.
Gotcha. Because
I had to make my own dessert. I don't know if you remember that. Probably not, because you were pretty hungover that day.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah,
you're rough shape.
In passing shape. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was great movie. Still belongs on my list. Happy it's there.
Yeah, I enjoyed Doctor Strange. I'll talk about Doctor Strange a little bit further down the road for me. So my number 10, my 10th favorite movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, I like all 23 of them, so let's be honest. But number 10 for me is actually a movie that is fairly recent. Came out in between the last Avengers movies, and that is Captain Marvel. I really enjoyed the Captain Marvel movie. It's a character, Brie Larson played her well, but Carol Danvers in the comics is a fun character. The thing is, for me, is that I think the original introduction of her in the movie actually did her a disservice. However, when
Agreed.
she comes back in Avengers Endgame, she is definitely much more the Captain Marvel that you know and love from the comic books, which was something that I was always a huge fan of. So, but the movie was really cool. I like it. It was the first movie that really went back in time. I think we're going to get a lot more of this here in the next couple of years. Movies from years and years ago in what is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then how it ties together with characters from modern day. So, of course, having Nick Fury in there was really cool, and seeing Coulson and all the stuff that you saw. It also introduced what is going to be another Disney Plus series coming up, which is Secret Invasion, the storyline in which the Skrulls from Captain Marvel infiltrate the Earth by pretending to be a bunch of different humans. So that movie is coming later down the road. Additionally, another character that was introduced in Captain Marvel, again, so this movie's got fingers all over the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is the character who will ultimately be known as Photon, who is Monica Rambeau. Monica Rambeau is currently being seen in the WandaVision show. She was, I forgot her character's name already. Geraldine?
Yeah.
She goes by
It starts
Geraldine.
with a G, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Geraldine, but that's her
Right.
that's her undercover name while she's infiltrating the WandaVision show. So, but she is the little girl. So if you've seen Captain Marvel, she is the little girl. And then in present day, she is a grown adult working for SWORD, who is the SHIELD offshoot that is involved in the WandaVision show. So, did you like Captain Marvel, Mark?
It probably would have, if I didn't want to do this stupid joke about Doctor Strange at the beginning on our cruise, that probably would have been number 10 as well.
Well, that's a good motivation.
I very much like it. I love the throwback. All the scenes in the the secure facility are awesome, and just kind of that Mad Caper kind of thing with the words are gone today. It was awesome. I loved it. Great movie. Great introduction to her character. Now, there's some parts of the movie that were a little clunky, and you're right. It kind of went from powerful character to the most powerful character in like that, and going from one movie to the next. That was kind of an interesting transition. Fantastic. They another situation where they were able to pick the proper person for the role.
Yes.
And perfect.
Yeah, that is one thing for sure, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again, that Marvel has done unbelievably well, is just finding the perfect actors for each character. Not only do they physically embody the character, but they really nail the personalities. These are all world-class actors that are taking these parts, and now everybody wants to be in a Marvel movie because they're all billion-dollar movies, so it's they can get anybody they want at this point. And some of the rumors that are coming out of who's going to be in Doctor Strange,
Crazy.
it's like an A-list, Hollywood A-list. So, what is your number 9, Mark? What do you got? What do you got for number 9 for us?
We're going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Oh,
so this may not be the most favorite of films for a lot of people, but I absolutely love the characters. I love the music. You'll see the first movie, spoiler alert, eventually on this list as well. I was crushed when James Gunn lost his job directing the third one, because he just put everything together so perfectly. Now, the second movie had some rough spots. I mean, Kurt Russell, I mean, he was great in the movie, but I don't know if that was a perfect casting choice. I think there's a few people I could think that might have been better, but it's just fun, man. It's a fun movie, and that's what I go to the theater for. I'm not a horror fan. I don't like that kind of thing. I go to a movie to enjoy it, have fun, and I did when I watched it. not much more to say than that. It's just,
I love the
you
Guardians of the Galaxy movies. The first one
Awesome.
was amazing. I have to agree with you a little bit on that. That I didn't think the second one was quite the same caliber as the first one. They were both great movies, but the first one really kind of nailed it. The second one felt a little bit forced at times, like it was trying too hard to be an overt comedy. Whereas the first one, the humor was almost in the fact that they were playing it deadpan and trying to be serious, which really kind of made the difference, I think.
Well, and that's maybe a worry for the third movie, because maybe the first one was just lightning in a bottle. Maybe they hit it right. There was so many elements that had come together that were unique and different, and that's what made the first movie such a success. And this is kind of a weird. You ever see The Hangover?
Oh yeah. Yep.
And then they made Hangover 2.
Sure.
And it was the same movie or just in a different country.
Sure.
They tried to. They didn't go that far, obviously, with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but there's a little bit of that to it. It wasn't. They weren't making something new and unique anymore. They were following the same formula.
Right.
If they would have pushed those boundaries a little bit more, I think that this would have been far higher on my list.
Yeah, and I also when it comes to Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I also feel like maybe James Gunn was given a little bit too much freedom. We saw that certainly with Wonder Woman 2, where Patty Jenkins was given too much freedom, and we saw how that turned out. It'll be interesting to see how Suicide Squad is, because James Gunn obviously did Suicide Squad, which is a DC property that is coming out later this year. If that is also campy and goofy, it might be scary to think what Guardians 3 is going to be. However, with that said, if anybody can rein him in and get him back in form, it's Kevin Feige. So I have very little concern about all that. So my number 9, moving on, my number 9 is the one that started it all. For me, it's the first Iron Man. Iron Man 1, my son, was one of the first movies I ever took him to. I think he saw Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe before that. But then for me, taking him to go see Iron Man started the whole thing, and we have never missed a movie in the theaters together. Even at a young age, I took him to see the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which certainly had some questionable adult themes in it. But for them to take Iron Man was the first movie, when you look back on it in hindsight, was the first movie that took the superhero genre seriously. Of course, DC did take their characters seriously in the fact that they made quality movies. But Iron Man was the first one in which they said, we need to find a way to marry what makes the comic book great with reality. Whereas DC has always had this idea that they need to ground their characters and make them realistic, make them feel that they really exist in our world. Iron Man didn't do that. Iron Man said, no, this is what makes this character great. This is what the comic book is like, and we're just going to put this on film for you. And it was a resounding success. If that movie didn't make it, there is no cinematic universe today. That was the start of it all, and it really hit it. It nailed the landing. Everything was perfect, and it really is just absolutely my favorite movie.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie, start to finish. I mean, building the first Iron Man suit. Again, you want to talk about perfect casting? That was perfect casting, and he was not what he is now.
Correct.
They took him off the scrap heap. That was his career was probably over at that point, and now
controversy after controversy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what he did just about everything he could do badly, and they took him. They said, you know what, you're going to play this part, and I mean, the rest is history. I mean, the crazy part to think about this is they made this movie. They were so sure that this movie was going to be great. They kept this one in house, and then they farmed out the next one, which is kind of crazy when you really think about it now, that this was their way in to theaters, and it wasn't even close to their biggest property as far as comics are concerned. Iron Man was kind of a B-lister when it came to Marvel Comics even. And that takes some guts to put him in first. I mean, they couldn't do anything with Spider-Man, so that was, who is arguably the most popular Marvel character. But to take him over Captain America or Thor, any number of characters, Black Panther for that matter, was kind of a stroke of genius.
I have to agree, and I know that the story has been told. I don't remember exactly why they chose Iron Man. There was a story behind it, but yeah, they really did the right thing with that by taking a B-list character and really taking off with it. And the story behind Marvel creating their own film division is absolutely incredible. I mean, and how they did that and the choices that they made. The reason why they couldn't do the second movie on their own is because they literally were broke, and by the time the money started to come back into them. They in order to even make that movie, they funded that movie by selling off other properties. So it really was crazy. It was a big risk that they took, and it has paid off in huge dividends. The original owners of Marvel are all ludicrously wealthy now by having Disney buy them out, and of course Disney has not dropped the ball.
No.
Not in the way that they did with Star Wars, even though they are now turning it back around. But no, Disney took Marvel and they have run with it, and it's been an incredible feat to watch it grow. So.
Well, and the cool thing about Iron Man is, I mean, when you think about that with the transition from was it Paramount was the distributor at first, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So they went from Paramount, and it was so seamless. I mean, Disney could have gone in and gutted it and changed things, and they didn't. They chose not to. Right. They held the course. They knew they had something there. Obviously, they paid, was it $4 billion for Marvel?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so it was around $4 billion for Marvel. So they obviously knew they had something. I mean, you look back at Spider-Man, they had to sell Spider-Man to stay in business as a comic company.
Yeah, that was years ago. Yeah.
Can you believe that? I mean, can you think about how much bigger Marvel is now than DC? And DC was ready to just crush them under their thumb.
Yep.
And it's remarkable.
It is what it is.
It's remarkable.
And and of course, the next instance you see this character is in your number 8. Oh no, it's not. Actually, no, I take that back. I'm wrong. But what is your number 8? Let's go ahead and go with your number 8.
So my number 8 is the Avengers, the first Avengers. This movie, when it came out, would have been number 1, but these movies are so massive now that it's kind of pushed down the list for me. I'm kind of I kind of love all the different characters, and adding, we only had six superheroes effectively when that movie came out, and I kind of want more. And when I go back and watch that, and maybe that's why this is further down the list than I would expect it to be, when I first put the list together, is I watch it and I want more, but I know that more isn't here yet. So I know it's coming, but it's not here yet, and that's okay. I mean, that. It was a massive success. It was, what was it? 700 million, 800 million, something around that range.
It
was massive money. That first weekend was the record for the opening weekend. And the crazy part is, there was a lot of people that had no awareness of the movie until a couple months before it came out. It just went nuts. And, I'm not going to say that the Avengers was what kept the Marvel Cinematic Universe on the course it's on today. That's one that's coming up on my list. But without it, we wouldn't have this.
Yep, I agree with you completely. Yep, I agree completely. So much so that my number 8 is actually also the Avengers.
There you go.
For me, same thing. I mean, the movie really, it was the first time you saw that they had the courage to do something like this, where they brought all these characters together and put them into one film and teamed up these massive superheroes and really pulled it off. And when you look back and hear the stories about issues that Kevin Feige had with Joss Whedon and how it almost could have become much campier than it ended up being, it really is just a testimony to how strong this idea was and how well it worked. So that is a really good. Just a really good process that they've put underway here for them to continue to grow this franchise. And I mean, it's one of those movies for me that you just can watch it over and over and over again. And there are certain moments in that movie that are just the epitome of what makes the Marvel Cinematic Universe great. The Hulk saying, you want to know my secret? That moment. I mean, there is just so many of those things in that movie. It's just incredible to me. And since we did agree for the first time here, there's only one of 2 spots in which we actually agree. I'm going to take a moment real quick just to say that we are way behind schedule. So if we want to get through this, we do have to kind of chuck through it a little bit faster. So,
all right, let's go.
What is your number 7, Mark?
Age of Ultron. This is probably the most controversial thing I have on the list here. Again, I like it because it's bigger. You've crammed more characters in. I personally like James Spader very much, and Ultron was super cool for me. I think James Spader is an awesome actor, and to hear him in that. And then you know what? They add a small little dump of Pinocchio in there with "There Are No Strings on Me." That little, you hear in the background as they're changing scenes, and I don't know. That just that cheesy stuff kind of makes me happy. So
yeah, I have to agree. First of all, James Spader is unbelievable. I'm going to give a confession real quick. Age of Ultron is not on my list at all.
I get it.
It's not that I don't like the movie. I have literally only watched it twice. It's the least that I have watched any of the Disney movies. And only the second time I only watched it because I was watching through all the movies in sequence. So
got it.
For whatever reason, it doesn't draw me in. I don't like the back and forth play of Wanda and Quicksilver. I also, I feel like they crammed a lot into that movie. They pulled it off without a doubt. It's definitely not the worst Marvel movie by any stretch of the imagination in my mind. However, given the events of what's going on with WandaVision, I may have to revisit this one another time because obviously it's her origin story to a certain extent. And I have a funny feeling that it's going to be even bigger. And, if it's anything like the comics, Ultron's never really gone. So no. I'm sure he'll come back and visit us another time. So that was your 7. My number 7 is Doctor Strange. I know it was a little bit lower on the list for you. I think you had it at number 10, right?
10.
Yeah, so I absolutely love Doctor Strange. I have watched that movie, no exaggeration. I've probably watched it 10 times. I love the effects that they use. I love Mads Mikkelsen in the movie. I'm a huge Mads Mikkelsen fan. And, Tilda Swinton is fantastic in it. Of course, her character comes back again in Avengers Endgame. It's Endgame, right? Yeah. So
yeah.
And I honestly, I don't think we've seen the end of her either. I think she's gonna be back at some time as well. But it's just the introduction of magic, and we talk about how Guardians of the Galaxy was the first major departure because it was the first time they went out and did stuff in space. Well, Doctor Strange was the first time they went into the magic realm, which is ultimately important for a number of different reasons. Thus, why the next Avengers level movie is going to be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is coming out next year. So, we already said quite a bit about it, so we don't need to dig too much further into it. But I think it's just a great movie. What's your number 6, Mark?
All right, number 6 is Black Panther. So here's my thing. If somebody asked me, I'd like to watch the best Marvel has. You want to watch the best movie? It's Black Panther.
Sure.
I am not a big fan of origin stories. That's the only reason it's at number 6. It is the best movie. It's it was nominated for Best Picture. I mean, it is the best movie they made. But I'm just not a fan of origin stories. And I love it. I will watch it over and over again. Unlike most of the other origin stories, Captain America and Thor and those movies were fairly unforgettable. This one is not. It's just an origin story. It's simple as that. Sure.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I also love the movie. It's actually secret. It's a little higher up on my list. My biggest concern with Black Panther, and it's actually not a concern. That's the complete wrong word. My biggest regret is that we're not going to see Chadwick Boseman in that role anymore. With his passing. He embodied Black Panther. He was the perfect choice in my mind. And it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with the character. There's a lot of different rumors floating around. I do know that Michael B. Jordan is coming back for Black Panther 2. So he was Killmonger, of course. One of the few Marvel movies that the villain was as enticing as a character as the protagonist was. I mean,
agreed.
He was amazing as Killmonger, knocked out of the park. He certainly warranted getting a nod for Best Supporting Actor, and it was a shame that he didn't get more accolades for what he did. He's an amazing actor with an incredible future, and it's clearly going to be in Black Panther. Whether he's going to don the suit of Black Panther or it's going to be a different storyline, who knows? But I'm really looking forward to finding out what's going to go on with that.
Well, and I know he did initially audition for that role and was given the other role at that point. So, you know what? Fantastic movie.
It's all you. It's really all you can say. So my number six is because Captain America is one of my favorite movies. Period. But believe it or not, that didn't even make my list. It was one of his other movies, which is going to be Winter Soldier. And to be honest with you, I could make an argument for Winter Soldier being the best Marvel cinematic movie, or cinematic universe movie that there is. But for a number of reasons, it is not. What I will say is that I do believe that Winter Soldier is their best genre film. Winter Soldier is a spy movie. It is not a superhero movie. There just happens to be superheroes in it. But there's very, very little of flying or superpowers other than Captain America's strength. It's more of a spy movie, and it talks about espionage and assassins, and talks about shadowy corners of our own government and stuff like that. And it really is just, at the end of the day, just a great, thrilling movie that really displays exactly what you want out of that kind of a genre. And then it just happens to be superheroes that are in it. Also introduces, Bucky's return as Winter Soldier, who is still to this day an important character with his own show, along with Falcon. The two characters that were introduced in that are Winter Soldier and Falcon, and they have their own television show starting right up after WandaVision. So clearly great characters.
Yeah, and there just weren't enough spots on the list because it's right there. I completely agree with you. It's that spy thriller. You said it all. You said it all.
Well, yeah, there you go. So what's your number 5, Mark?
All right, let's keep going. Let's go back to this fun. I think you're going to see a trend in a lot of my movies. I like to see mashups. Give me a couple different characters in them. Let's go with Thor Ragnarok. God, that was such a good movie. It was so much, again, a fun movie. It sits on that side of the spectrum for these movies. Again, another thing that you're going to see in a lot of the films I've picked on the list here. Taika Waititi, who's coming back for Love and Thunder? Is that the next one?
Thor: Love and Thunder, yeah.
Yeah, so he's coming back to direct that. He knocked that out of the park. That you had the Thor series at that point was struggling hard. Those first two movies, the first one's a decent film, the second one's garbage, and then boom. Now he's relevant. You had all these films where you're going to make a trilogy of them, wrap them in a bow, and you're done. Captain America, Iron Man, Thor was going to be one of those. He's getting probably 3 more movies out of that. I mean, think about the breath of life that Taika Waititi put into that movie. I mean, that's just it was a fun movie. You got to see Hulk. You got God, great. And we get some great character actors in that as well, added onto there. So,
Well, and the thing with Thor, because Thor, the introduction of Thor originally, the first Thor movie, they were able to land Kenneth Branagh as a director, and it's one of those situations where if you can get Kenneth Branagh back then, especially, you don't pass up that opportunity. No. The problem was Kenneth Branagh did not understand who Thor was, and so he made a fairly dark Norse mythology movie, which and just happens to be a superhero, and he nailed the superhero part right, the power set part right, which some in Wonder Woman 2, for example, they didn't get that right. But what they missed in that first Thor movie was Thor's grandioseness, his ability, boisterousness, his man childishness. There were a couple of moments where it flashed in there, but I mean, in the comics, he's a drunkard. He's over the top ridiculous, and they finally nailed that humor, that it's campy without being stupid, and they did it. I mean, Taika Waititi nailed it. He absolutely nailed it with that movie. So yeah, I have to agree that that
nails everything though.
Yeah, he really did do a great job with that. So my number 5 is not Thor Ragnarok. My number 5 is actually Avengers Endgame, the last big Marvel movie Avengers level movie that we've had up to this point. It's sequel, of course, to Infinity War, that finally told how the final fight happened and where we ended up and how we got to where we are. The thing for me is it's, 5 for me for the number one money-making box office movie of all time, close to what, $3 billion it made. Avengers Endgame for me is a flawed movie, and not that there's any single piece of it that is wrong. I think that Marvel did, and the brothers that made the movie did a wonderful job with it. My problem is that I don't feel the need to watch it. It's almost too much of a movie. For me, it really just becomes exhausting. It's over 3 hours long.
That's the best part. That's the best part.
I don't know. I struggle with that because, don't get me wrong, I love Marvel movies and I can watch a lot of them over and over and over again. I have only seen Endgame twice. And I've watched parts of it over and over again. Like there's certain scenes that I'll go to. I'll jump to a certain scene. And of course it's been referenced 1,000 times, especially the very end of the movie. And it's got what I would consider the most fan favorite scene that exists in all of the Marvel movies when Captain America finally, gets Mjolnir and proves that he is actually worthy. So that, that was clearly an amazing moment in the whole of the trilogy. We also see the final moments of Iron Man and tying that story arc all together. But, for me, it's just, as a standalone movie, one, it's not a good standalone movie because you can't just pick that up and watch it without watching Avengers Infinity War first, because they really are married movies. Also, if you watch it all by yourself, you would never know. If it was a standalone movie, you wouldn't know who any of these characters are. So that is the only issue I have with that. Because like Avengers is the first Avengers movie is an ensemble movie, but you know enough about who all those characters are that you can pick that movie up without seeing any of the previous movies.
There's only 8 of them. That's why.
Right.
It's so easy to follow.
The only reason I put this down lower like that is because of that aspect. So, what is your number 4, Mark?
We're going to go to one you already mentioned, Iron Man. The origin. Now, I say I don't like origin stories, but this was this was fantastic. You see this guy turn from a complete asshole to world's greatest superhero, just like that. Maybe getting shot in the chest does that to you, but thank God I don't know that. But it's fun. Seeing the opening scene might be my favorite opening to any Marvel movie, and it was the first one. Can you just how cool is that that's how this started? Hammering, building his own suit in a cave. It didn't seem like it was something that would work again with a B-list character,
right?
And it did.
Yeah.
And then they had 3 movies that didn't really work. That's what's amazing about it. This was so powerful for the cinematic universe that this movie was able to carry him past Thor, Captain America, or Incredible Hulk, and get to Avengers.
Yep.
If it wasn't good, none of this would have happened. So there's some power in that as well. And that's why it's so high on my list, because you got to start somewhere. And if the start would have been bad, we'd have never gotten what we've seen today.
Yeah, and there's, the thing is too, is when you go back and watch it as well, there are introductions to elements that, let me pause real quick. Marvel is fantastic at retconning elements of their movies to make it look like it was all a seamless idea from the very start. So the way that they referenced the 10 Rings, which of course is an homage to the Mandarin, who in the comics is Iron Man's number 1 enemy. We haven't seen the Mandarin yet in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We saw a fake Mandarin in Iron Man 3, but we haven't seen the real Mandarin yet. The real Mandarin is coming out later this year with the Shang-Chi movie. So we'll find, or is it actually, did that get moved to the beginning of next year? I forget now. But we'll, who knows? At this point, it's all because of COVID. But we will see the Mandarin in Shang-Chi. He will be the primary, most likely the primary antagonist, if not the secondary antagonist. It could be, there's a couple different characters it could be, but we'll see what happens with that. It'll be interesting to find out. My number four is a movie that you always, so now this is where we're kind of like flip-flopping some of our movies. For me, it is Thor Ragnarok. You really nailed it with that one. Thor Ragnarok for me, it came out after Guardians of the Galaxy. So the first Guardians of the Galaxy was a movie that people did not expect to be what it was. It was silly. It was funny. It didn't take itself too seriously, but it never felt stupid. And Thor Ragnarok did the exact same thing. The way Taika Waititi was able to it was like a buddy cop movie. It really was. It was a buddy film, and the use of several different story arcs from the comic books, and then combining them into one overarching storyline. Again, with wonderful Easter eggs in there to like Beta Ray Bill and Planet Hulk and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it was really well done in the way that they put it all together, and of course introduced again characters that you're still going to see, all the way through. I mean, the way that they weave these characters together to create these incredible arcs is just great. So Valkyrie, of course, is the current Queen of Asgard, the Asgard on Earth, after Avengers Endgame, and it all just keeps getting tied back together. But that was her introduction into the story, and gave you her backstory and the understanding of who she was and why she was as powerful she is. What I mean, what a great story, and fun and funny, and that's definitely up there on the list of movies that I can watch 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Absolutely.
All right, we gotta get rolling.
Yeah, well, yeah. What do you got next, Mark? What is your number 3?
Captain America: Civil War. So this was the second Russo brothers film after your Winter Soldier. This movie brought everything together. It was Avengers level, and in some cases it might have been bigger than Age of Ultron. I think there's some thought in some areas that this was the second Avengers movie that some people thought. So I know they were fighting each other, and that's fine and all well and good. But again, massive scale. We got to see giant Ant-Man, which was killer. That was awesome. They had great scenes. The fight between everybody in the middle of the runway there. Throwing planes, moving shit around. Oh God, just a fantastic movie. And without that movie, it kind of felt funny when that movie came out, because it was like, I'm not exactly sure they need to do this right now. But without that movie kind of bringing everyone together and solidifying the team, I don't know how much the hit from Infinity War or Endgame would have been, just the emotional hit from what happens in those two movies. This is what made it happen for me. That's why it's so high on the list. It's a great movie. And they have become, the Russo brothers have become the face. You'll say Kevin Feige, and I got you there. But as far as the directing is concerned, they're going to give their biggest property to them.
Yeah.
And it always felt like it was going to be Joss Whedon, and then Joss Whedon, and then he kind of screwed up Ultron.
Yep.
And kind of got out of there.
Yep.
But these guys are the directing face of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're going to get any film they want if they ask for it.
Yeah, so I think when we get to the point where we're introducing either Doctor Doom or Galactus, like that level, I think they're going to come back then. They have said that they're done for now. They don't want to do it after Endgame. They're done, and I can only imagine how exhausted they are. The process that all was. So
yeah, totally.
That is something.
Money talks for some people,
correct. And also their last couple movies. They have one with Spider-Man there that just came out. They're not making a ton of money. The 13 Bridges with Chadwick Boseman. That was not a huge hit.
No, it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to come home again to roost. So we'll
got to make some money, and this is a paycheck. It's a guaranteed paycheck for them.
Paycheck. So
and they know what they're doing. I mean, they figured it out.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Let them do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So speaking of great directors, my number 3, and I do have to apologize because I didn't even realize I screwed this up. It is listed as my number 4. It's not. It's my number 3. Is Black Panther. Ryan Coogler, the director of Black Panther. So again, that's number 3, not number 4. I mean, we've already said everything we need to say about Black Panther. The movie was amazing. It should have won Best Picture. I do think Chadwick Boseman gets an Oscar posthumously this year. I think that's what you're probably going to see because he's amazing in absolutely everything he's ever done. the biggest thing for me, and this could be higher on the list if it wasn't for what my top two are. But the thing for me is that I will never, ever, ever forget going to see Black Panther in the theaters for the first time. And for me, it was actually at a movie tavern, which is kind of like Alamo Drafthouse. It's one of those, you can eat at your table kind of movies. And it was a Friday night release. Thursday night. I mean, it was like the Thursday night early release at 6 p.m. And I went in there, and there probably a third of the crowd was African American, and they were having a party. They were dressed like they were going to church. I mean, they were dressed to the nines. And it was everybody. It wasn't like it was one family or two families or three families. It was everybody that came in there, because for them, for that culture, for those people, and all of us, it really should represent this elevation of the Black and brown story. And even though it's not an American story, it's an African story. It's the first time that we have seen a mainstream superhero that has that color skin, who wasn't campy, who wasn't silly, who was taken seriously, who didn't need the aid of some white person. Everything was done beautifully, and it was a celebration of the African culture, and without, again, making a joke out of it or overly exaggerating it. Everything was just done perfectly. It was well written. It was perfectly directed. The cast was stunning. The set pieces were stunning. And for me, it really is just one of the best things that Marvel has put out yet. So I really can't say much more than that. I mean, we've talked about it at length. So
you were much more eloquent than I was in that. And the other thing too is this movie was a lesson for all of film. You give their community a great film, they'll come out in Titanic levels.
Oh yeah.
I mean, over $700 million. It's the highest grossing Marvel film that's not an Avengers film.
Yep.
That's so awesome.
Yep.
So yeah.
What is your number two, Mark?
All right, Endgame. You already said everything. I get what you're saying with it being a standalone movie. It would be a poor movie, but it's not a standalone movie. That's just the reality of it. And quite frankly, there was so much buzz for that movie when it came out. If you didn't know, I mean, how many people do you think walked into the theater going, I'm going to see this new Avengers movie, and go, what the hell happened? No, they've already seen them all. So, and it's, almost I think it was $2.7 billion worth of people. So you had a lot of return viewers. Yes, it was over 3 hours long. I mean, I think that's the one I've seen in the theater more than any other movie. I can sit down and watch that front to back anytime. It transitions so well. You get throwback pieces. You get to see, kind of the time travel was very fun. And then the end of that movie was, I don't care about spoilers. I'll read any spoiler ever. I couldn't care less if it's out there. I didn't read a spoiler for this. And there was a couple times at the end, my heart's pounding so hard. I was like, well, this is it for Mark. I'm done. So, and it's not, it's meow meow. That's how you pronounce it. When,
the hammer.
When
the
Captain
hammer,
America took over meow meow.
Oh my God, that was great.
That is that. I just all chills and smiles.
Sure.
So just fantastic.
Yep, fantastic
movie.
movie.
What about you?
All right, so we're flipping a little bit here. So my number two is actually Civil War.
Okay,
for
cool.
me, again, another Russo brothers movie. The Captain America movies, the whole trilogy of Captain America movies, really are great. And how funny that the least quality of them is the actual original origin story of Captain America, the first Avenger movie. Civil War is just great. It introduces a conflict arc between the heroes themselves. Really one of the first movies in which you didn't know exactly who the villain was, and they also, while they didn't really exaggerate the character, the villain, as much as they could have, He's coming back. He'll be in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So, Zemo is he's one of the really higher quality villains in the Marvel universe, and he crosses over with a number of different heroes as a villain set. So it'll be interesting to see how they expand his character. Ultimately, Civil War was more just an introduction and not so much the final quality. It was also our introduction to Black Panther. And then, of course, Spider-Man made his first appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So really just a fantastic movie, well put together, incredible set pieces. Like you had mentioned before, the first appearance of Giant Man. And also, I will note, out of 10 movies for both of us, not either one of the Ant-Man properties made it onto either one of our lists. Spoiler for number one. I don't think anybody expected Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp to be number one. So,
really?
Yeah,
just ruined it for me. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. So let's get to it. What is your number one, Mark?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Excellent. Well, real quick, I will just say this for you. Your number one is Guardians of the Galaxy. But so is my number one. My number one is also Guardians of the Galaxy. I just think that is a truly fantastic movie. I have watched Guardians of the Galaxy at this point now probably 75 times. Out of all of the Marvel movies, it is one of the few movies that I can put on any given time. The soundtrack is second to none. Without even being original, it's just an homage to old songs. I mean, it's so well done. The characters are good. I didn't want to give away too much when we were both talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But one of my biggest gripes in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is what they did with the Drax character, because Drax was really on point in Guardians of the Galaxy, but they made him super ridiculous in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
He got
kind
dumber.
of ruined the character. Also, Groot in the first movie is the Groot that I know and love from the comic books. And I just got too much of the baby Groot and the teenage Groot in the other movies. We are going to see adult Groot back in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and probably in Thor: Love and Thunder first. We might see it might still be adolescent Groot. I'm not sure, but by Guardians of the Galaxy 3, we will see adult Groot again, which I do miss. But just the core group, I liked seeing them together. It was a fun movie. It introduced Ronan, who is not Ronan. Ronan, right?
Ronan,
Who is a ultimately a powerful villain, and we'll see him again too. By the way, most likely in Captain Marvel 2. We'll probably revisit him once more. It was the first introduction into space. It was a property. If you were a comic book person, you knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, but if you were not a comic book person, you had no idea who these characters were, and they took a huge risk putting this to film, and it was a resounding success. And I've always been very happy with how that all came out.
So two things real quick. So Groot, the big difference between Groot in the first movie and the second movie is emotion.
Sure.
Groot was the emotion in the first movie. Groot said one word, and he was you felt so terrible at the end, and you felt like he was the hero all in one. But when I say the biggest thing for me on this movie is just what you said. This movie could have been nothing because people are going, what's this? We don't get it. Doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It wasn't. And as much as the Avengers took Marvel to the next level, this movie is what made the Marvel Cinematic Universe the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Think about the three movies that came right before this. So you had Iron Man 3, not on any of our lists. Thor: The Dark World, not any of our lists. And you had a spy thriller, Winter Soldier, very good movie. But the Captain America movies have always been some of the lower grossing movies that have come out.
Right.
So you've got, and quite frankly, the third one really isn't a Captain America movie. It's an Avengers movie. So you can kind of, you've crammed Iron Man, everybody into it. So the bottom line for me is, this is what solidified the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is what made it what it is today, made it the pop culture revolution that everybody else wants to duplicate.
Yep.
It's because of this movie.
Yep, I agree.
This did 100%.
Beautiful.
So,
well, I'm
and,
glad
yeah,
we were in agreement on that one because we both agree that that's the best Marvel has done.
Oh yeah,
and
Nine
that's
close.
fantastic. So, real quick, and we are way over
Yeah,
on this
we're
one, so
al-
we got
we're
less
almost
than 5.
out.
I want this done in less than 5 minutes.
Do this.
Considering we're talking about the shit, this is the bad ones. What is your? We each picked 2. What is your number
Yeah.
2, Mark? What is your number 2 bad one?
Thor: The Dark World. What a piece of crap that movie was.
Yep.
I mean, just you can't. It's hard to follow. You don't know what the hell's going on. Why is this goo? What the hell? Nah. Bye.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you in any level on that. However, with that said, my number 2 bad movie is Iron Man 3. Much the same way. What a hot piece of garbage. The reality
I
is,
like all the suits. That's why it wouldn't be there. I
Well,
like the suits.
the reality is with Iron Man 3 is that you are looking at you're dealing with a flawed character who is coming off of Avengers, who is turned into kind of a baby. Now in the comic books, he goes through a heavy alcoholism phase. They didn't do that. They just gave him PTSD.
Pretty close. Yeah.
They actually introduced a character who's in Endgame, and the little boy that ends up ultimately probably becoming the next Iron Man down the road, or Iron Lad, I should say, in the next Young Avengers property, whether that's a movie or TV show. But the Extremis storyline is huge in the comic books, and that's what this movie was based on, was that Extremis storyline. And they really just ruined it. The villain was not scary. He was just silly.
The CGI wasn't
The
any good.
CGI
either.
was bad. Yeah, I mean, there was a number of different things that really just caused this movie to completely let me down.
And I love Shane Black, the director.
Yep.
He was freaking fantastic. I don't know if you ever saw Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah, great movie.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's done some it was a flaw. It's not that bad to me, but it's bad. Anyway,
What is your worst movie then?
in The Incredible Hulk. And I
Okay.
feel so bad for old Ed Norton, because that guy is a fantastic actor, and they put him in a pile of crap. It had no budget. I mean, we're getting Abomination back here soon, so that's pretty cool. And that was a fantastic character, but it's a sad start to old Hulk.
Yeah.
And as much as I love Ed Norton, he probably wasn't the proper cast. They hit it out of the park the second time.
Yep.
With
Mark Ruffalo is. I mean,
but
he is. Bruce Banner
yeah,
now.
I mean, he fits that character perfectly. I think I've only watched this one through one time. I've tried a couple more times, and you can't do it. Just can't
Yeah,
do
well,
it.
I actually have watched it a couple times. There are some aspects to it that I really enjoy. Overall, though, it is a bad movie, and it doesn't. When you watch it, it doesn't feel like it's part of the cinematic universe. It has a different feel to it.
It feels low budget.
Yeah, correct.
That's the problem. You've got all these movies, and yes, I was going to mention when you brought up the original the Captain America trilogy, the first Captain America also feels kind of low budget, and they're from the same time period. This feels cheap compared to everything else. Even Captain America.
Part of it too is also the sharing arrangement they had with Universal.
Yeah,
it probably dicked some of it up. But they introduced General Thunderbolt Ross in this. They introduced Abomination in this. They introduced oh shoot, I forgot his name now. The other doctor in New York City whose head gets bigger. I can't think of his name right now. Oh my god, what's wrong with me? But anyway, he's coming back as well. Rumor has it he's gonna be in the Thunderbolts movie if they get around to doing that. We'll see. But he's a major character in the comic books too that they never really went anywhere with. I didn't like Liv Tyler in it. I didn't like the final boss battle between him and Abomination was it didn't feel like you were really in New York City. Like they dropped the ball on that one.
No, again, no budget.
Yeah,
no budget.
Yeah, I agree. So my number one worst movie, which is one you already mentioned, is also Thor: The Dark World. It is just an absolute pile of dog shit. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. No. It was so bad it made Natalie Portman walk away from superhero movies. Although she's coming back, they moved her back. Yeah, Taika Waititi.
Thank you.
Yep. So and she, spoiler warning, if you don't already know the storyline that they're going to be doing the Gore the God Butcher movie, she's going to end up being Thor at some point in this. How much of that story from the comic books they actually tell, who knows? But it was really bad. Her, you know, and then of course injecting her with the rape goop, and which of course I want to see the story about how Captain America put the rape goop back into her. They need to tell that.
Of course you do.
Yeah, they need
I'm
to tell
sure you
that
can
story.
find that somewhere, buddy. Yeah,
it's coming. They gotta supposedly,
literally.
supposedly they brought Chris Evans back to tell that story. So we'll see. However, I cannot for the life of me. I'm having a brain fart tonight. I cannot remember her assistant's name. What is that?
Meow Meow.
Yeah, but what is her name?
Oh, remember?
Okay, so
I don't want to shut that shit up.
So that character still comes through too. She is in WandaVision as well. She is also a sword agent, so her character's still around. I mean,
she might have been the best part of the movie.
Yeah,
and I
she
can't
was
remember
fun.
her name. So,
but like, I didn't understand the whole the portal thing that was going on. That didn't make any sense. The convergence was unnecessary. Like, the thing is, the reality is, they didn't know that they didn't know that they were dealing with the Reality Stone. They didn't know that they were dealing with an Infinity Stone. They obviously
had to be shoehorned in later.
Yeah, it was retconned later, and you know, you give it all that again. This was the third movie. Third movie. Yeah, this was the third movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm gonna give them. You know, when it all is said and done, at the end of the day, you give them credit for making the movie. It was just shit. Yeah, it was just shit.
And thank God we got all that we got, because there was some crap there at the beginning. Yeah. So anyway, it's 6 o'clock. I know you want to go. You have a good night. It's 9 o'clock. You got to work in the morning.
Yeah. Hey,
one thing before we go. Watch the Godzilla versus King Kong trailer.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Cool.
It is absolutely amazing.
Watch it.
Also, if you can for us, please, subscribe to our channel. Click on that subscribe button and the notification bell as well, so you know when we're going live with our videos. We're doing this every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and we love your comments. You guys were very active.
Darby, she got it. Darby. Yay.
Oh, there we go. Darcy, not Darby.
Darcy. Yeah, okay.
Anyway.
Sorry, Angela.
Listen, thank you for the comments in there. I know normally we jump into the comments and get a little bit more active, but as you can see, we're way behind on time tonight.
Yeah. All good.
But this was fun. I like the top 10. We need to do more of these. Maybe for the next few weeks, we'll
Pixar's next one.
A lot less to talk about in politics because we don't have an idiot in the office anymore. So that's really good. Hey, guys.
Thanks for adding that.
Thank you very much for watching.
Have a good night.
Later, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.